Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, NCAA college football week number 10. Alright, week 9 I went 16-4 straight up picks, 7-13 against the spread, 7-13 on the over-under. Year to date, win-loss 288-75. Against the spread, 172-181. Over-under 180-173. Which is a 59.86% win total. Here in week 10, we got 16 big games. Some of the big dogs are off. Again, right at this point of the year, I'm doing just one-loss teams in the top 25. As we look at these 16 games, we look toward the playoffs. Never too early to look at the playoffs. If you look right now, there are 9 teams that are undefeated. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, so we know the American Conference typically isn't in the playoff conference. SMU is 8-0. Sun Belt Conference isn't typically in the playoff talk. Appalachian State is 7-0. So that leaves the ACC, Clemson, who are 8-0. That leaves the Big 12, Baylor, who is 7-0. Now, in the SEC, we have 2 teams that are undefeated. We have Alabama, who's 8-0, and we have LSU, that is 8-0. Now, that's all going to change on November 9th. We have Alabama versus LSU. The winner of that, more than likely, will go on to the ACC title game. Now, is it possible for LSU to win that game, lose the SEC title game, and miss the playoffs, and Alabama go in? Yeah. That's going to be really interesting to see what happens in that game alone, Alabama LSU, and in the SEC title game. Now we go over to the Big Ten. Big Ten's got a bigger mess going on. We have 2 teams in the East, Ohio State and Penn State, who are both 8-0. They play on November 23rd. So whomever is undefeated at that point, they'll go on to the Big Ten title game to face the undefeated right now, Minnesota, who's 8-0. So you could have a one-loss Penn State, Ohio State, let's just say Penn State, go sitting there, and then the Big Ten title game be undefeated Ohio State, undefeated Minnesota. Let's just say Ohio State loses, Minnesota wins. Minnesota's undefeated, Big Ten champion, more than likely they're in the playoffs. But then you have 2 one-loss teams, one who lost to the conference championship game, one lost to the loser of the Who would the committee put in, or would they put either of them in? So you could legit have a one-loss Minnesota, a one-loss Ohio State, and a one-loss Alabama sitting on the outside with an LSU, Minnesota, and Clemson all in. Then you have a Baylor, Ohio State, Minnesota, Alabama, who goes in? All with one loss. So yeah, as we get closer to this, we're going to have a lot of things going on. Looks like probably after that game, Ohio State, Penn State, we may have a little more clear picture. But I still think ACC champion, more than likely will be Clemson. They'll be in. We got to fill the other 3 spots. Is it one from the SEC, one from the Big Ten, one from the Big 12? No Big 12 champion, because we've done that in the past. No Big 12 champion made it. So yeah, a lot to get figured out as we go forward, but let's get through week 10. First matchup, we have the Navy Midshipmen, who are 6-1, versus the Connecticut Huskies, who are 2-6. Navy is favored by 27. I had UConn covering the 27, Navy winning, and over on the 56.5. Next up, the 17th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats, who are 6-1, versus the East Carolina Pirates, who are 3-5. Bearcats are favored by 23. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 49. Next up, we have the 15th ranked SMU Mustangs, who are 8-0, versus the 24th ranked Memphis Tigers, who are 7-1. Memphis is actually favored by 5.5 at home. I'm giving the 5.5 to SMU. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 70. Next up, we have a 4-3 NC State Wolfpack versus the 23rd ranked 6-1 Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Wake Forest is favored by 7.5, winning, covering, and under on the 61. Next up, a pair of 5-2 teams. We have the Virginia Tech Hokies and the 16th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Irish are favored by 17.5. I have them winning. I have Virginia Tech covering the 17.5 and under on the 58. Next up, we have the Wolford Terriers, 5-2, versus the 4th ranked Clemson Tigers, who are 8-0. Clemson is favored by 47. Tigers winning. I had the Terriers covering the 47. It's going to be like a 40-0 game. And I'm taking under on the 59.5. Next up, we have the 6-2 14th ranked Michigan Wolverines versus the 3-5 Maryland Terrapins. Wolverines favored by 18.5. The Terrapins cover. Wolverines win, and under on the 55.5. Next up, we have the West Virginia Mountaineers, 3-4, versus the 12th ranked Baylor Bears, who are 7-0. Baylor's favored by 17.5. I got them winning, covering, taking over on the 57. Next up, we have the 22nd ranked Kansas State Wildcats, 5-2, versus the 3-5 Kansas Jayhawks. Wildcats favored by 5.5, winning, covering, taking over on the 57.5. Next up, we have the University of Alabama at Birmingham Blazers, 6-1, versus the Tennessee Volunteers, who are 3-5. Tennessee is favored by 10.5. I have them winning. I have UAB covering at 10.5 and taking under on the 47.5. Next up, we have the 21st ranked Boise State Broncos, who are 6-1, versus the San Jose State Spartans, who are 4-4. Broncos are favored by 16.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 58. Next up, we have the 19th ranked Utah Utes at 7-1 versus the 5-3 Washington Huskies. The Utes are favored by 3.5 on the road. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 47.5. Next up, we have the 7th ranked Oregon Ducks, who are 7-1 versus the USC Trojans, who are 5-3. Oregon favored by 5 on the road. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 60. Game of the week out of the SEC, we have a 8th ranked Georgia Bulldogs, who are 6-1, versus 6th ranked Florida Gators, who are 7-1. Now, these are out of the, the East, I believe? Or the West? I think it's the West. Out of the SEC, the winner of these two teams, more than likely, will face the winner of Alabama LSU for the SEC title game. So, that's what I'm saying. You could have a clusterfuck of one-loss SEC teams because they beat up on each other. Now, both of these teams still have to play Missouri, who's 5-3. Georgia still has to play Auburn, who's 5-2. So Georgia has a little tougher schedule ahead of them than Florida does. Georgia is favored in this game by 5.5. In the current system that we have, Georgia's been there, done that. They've made the playoffs. Florida has not, of recent memory. Now, is Florida a year too early? Are they just the year before they break out? Next year, are they going to be what Georgia has been? I got Georgia winning. I got them covering at 5.5, taking over on the 47.5. I wouldn't be shocked if in Florida the Gators win here in the swamp, but I am taking the Bulldogs. Next up, we have the Ole Miss Rebels at 3-5 versus the 5-2 11th ranked Auburn Tigers. Auburn favored by 18.5. I got them winning. I got Ole Miss covering and under on the 52.5. And last but not least, we have the Georgia Southern Eagles, who are 4-3 versus the 20th ranked Appalachian State Mountaineers, who are 7-0. Mountaineers are favored by 16.5. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 48.5. So that wraps up week number 10 of the NCAA college football season. We're going to at least have a picture of who possibly is going to play LSU, Alabama for the SEC title game between Georgia and Florida. I'm picking Georgia. Wouldn't be shocked if Florida wins that. Let's see what other good matchups we have. There's a pretty good matchup there in the American Conference. The SMU 8-0 versus Memphis 7-1. I did pick SMU to win that. Other than that, just another week. Stay tuned to Robert Sports Show for NFL week number 9 and the week number 21, the final week of the CFL regular season, where we finally crown the West Division champion and get the playoffs looking a little more. Definitely check out the wrestling stuff as well on Robert Sports Show. We got a WWE Crown Jewel preview. I got a review of this past weekend's Ring of Honor, United Honor shows. Have a preview of MLW Major League Wrestling's Saturday Night Super Fight, the first ever pay-per-view for MLW that's coming this weekend. Make sure you check all the information out here on the Robert Sports Show about all that. As always, thanks for watching the Robert Sports Show, and don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports show content.